Okay, hello and welcome. My name is Sarah Newberry, and I am a somatic body worker, barefoot massage therapist, and postpartum specialist. And I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. And I am so excited to have this three-way conversation with my friend Rachel. And she just invited, no, wait, she just invited me to have a conversation with her friend, Savannah. So Savannah and I are just meeting right now. All right.
Right.
Welcome. Welcome all of you. I will have each of you guys kind of introduce yourself just a little bit, and then we'll start in our conversation about the future of massage therapy.
Yay.
Go ahead, Savannah. Who are you?
Is it me? Are you passing the baton?
I'm passing it over.
All right. Well, I'm Savannah. I am the owner and therapist at Neuromelt Massage. It's a private practice. I am focused on deep, slow nervous system informed body work. My approach blends a lot of myofascial release, neuromuscular work. My main intention is always to create a sense of safety, and that's just what kind of the baseline of my practice. I work out of San Antonio, Texas, live in New Braunfels, and happy to be here.
Awesome. And I'm Rachel Wolf. I own Mama Bear Massage and developing Mama Bear Massage Mobile and all of the training resources for the internal team. That's what I'm jamming on currently, based in San Antonio, Texas.
Awesome. We're all Midwest people. Texas is considered the Midwest, right?
Is it?
South. This the
South
South.
Midwest.
I don't even think Texas is considered the South. I
It's
think
not?
Texas is, no, it's like its own entity.
You know what, touche, because Texans would probably agree with that.
Yeah. And I'm a native Texan, so there you go. You heard it from me.
Yeah, from Houston, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Love it. Well, I feel like if we're in the same time zone, we're like,
Yeah.
so that's where I was going with that. Okay, so Savannah, I'm curious, how long have you been doing massage? Because Rachel and I are both around the same amount of time since about 2008 for me.
Yeah, I was licensed in 2007, so it'll be 18 years in August.
Right on. So we're some veterans,
Oh,
okay?
geez.
Which we have a lot of really interesting thoughts, I think, in because we've seen a lot, right? We've been doing this full time for that entire amount of time. I mean, I've had four babies, so I've taken off some time to do that. But otherwise, I've been doing this work full time since 2008.
Yeah.
Um, so we've seen a lot, but we're also seeing a lot. And I'm kind of curious. We were talking before we hit record about pricing and the state of things and how that's affecting choices that we make. I like can memorize facts and like regurgitate them pretty quickly. And I think that, you know, something that's really interesting is that the price of a massage has changed a lot in the last like 5 years, but before that, from like five beyond, like backwards, it really hadn't changed much. And that's terrifying to me and concerning. And I think it was like in the 90s, massages were like $1 a minute. Remember that? Like $60 for 60 minutes, right? And it wasn't really until about 5 years ago, I could be a little off on that number, but 5 years ago, things really started to drastically change. I know that before COVID, whenever I had a staff of people, of course, they wanted to be paid more. And I was like, listen, if you want to be paid that, and you're an employee, W-2 employee, we're going to have to raise our prices to like $200 for an hour in order for you to get that number that you want.
Right.
And I feel like now we are 5 years post-pandemic, and the average price now in my area, St. Louis, Missouri, ranges a lot. Like I still have people charging $80, and then I have people for an hour. And I then also have people charging up to like $140 an hour. And that has to be really confusing for the average customer, right? Like, how do I decide who to go to whenever my range is $80 to $140? And like that's also the beauty of this work, right? Like you can make these choices and you can do whatever you want to do, and like there's nothing wrong per se with any of those things. I mean, I could come up with a couple wrong things there, but um but you know, there's like that's kind of the beauty of it all.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious if you guys are noticing the same thing in over there in Texas, or if you think that there's a little bit smaller of a margin, or what do you notice?
No, there's a pretty big range in my experience. I definitely, my rates are on the higher end of the average in the area. But I mean, I've seen people charging $75 for an hour massage, and then up
How
to,
much do you charge, Savannah? Do you feel comfortable sharing numbers?
yeah, I charge my regular rate is 150 an hour. I do offer a membership program, which brings it down to 130 for the hour. But yeah. So I don't, you did mention that you feel like it is pretty problematic that there's such a huge range. I don't necessarily see it that way. I think that practitioners naturally charge based on their experience level and their confidence level, I guess I would say. And so I think that that translates to the customer. And so, you get what you pay for is always the mentality.
Hmm. I would say that the reverse is true too. Like that's the client that you get too, right?
Yeah,
Like not like the quality of client, but it's kind of like, you know, you're gonna attract the clients who are searching for something.
right. I mean, when you charge really low because you're not confident or you're just starting out, you're not necessarily confident in your technique, so you're trying to be, affordable, you're gonna attract clients who, I don't want, I hate using the word, I'm okay with people charging a lower rate if that's what they're comfortable with, and then people being able, I want massage to be accessible and people being able to afford that. I think that's great. But when you have 18 years in the industry, you can't charge $85 an hour because that's not what people are not paying for just a massage with people who have that much experience.
Mhm.
And so,
There's also, oh, sorry.
oh,
Go
it's
ahead.
okay. Yeah, so I mean, basically my point is when get to that level, you're going to attract the clients who can pay that, and then they're going to tell their rich friends, and your practice is, built off of that.
I'm thinking about public perception, and because the average person doesn't understand the differentiation of value, all they perceive is this apple over here is charging 80, this apple over here is charging 160. WTF? And what I have experienced since moving from St. Louis to San Antonio too, in San Antonio, the vibe is that the expectation is for it to be lower regardless, because so many in this city, I get the sense it's like a scarcity mindset thing where there's almost like a desperation to get clients in. And from the client side, it's like a hunt for the best deal, which includes the lowest prices. And so it's like a hunt for the bottom. It's a race to the bottom. But
Hmm.
then there's outliers like Savannah. You pop up in like every group as referred. Like people, you stand out from the fray because you are perceived as a top shelf option. You charge accordingly based on the ceiling of our market and what it'll support. And I'm kind of in a similar boat, but I've got a specialty practice with and you do too, but you serve a general population as opposed to a perinatal practice specifically. And then even more so with building the mobile, that affects our pricing and everything too. And so I don't know if it's just a matter of perception of value. I don't know if that's enough to break past this pricing barrier, given that again, I feel like it's a race to the floor instead of more people standing out in the fray like you do, Savannah, or like I'll say that I do as well, because we charge at the high end of that market. I charge 145 an hour for in clinic where they come to me. For mobile, it's more than that. It's 215, or excuse me, it's 165 for a 60-minute mobile, 215 for a 90. But yeah, I don't know. I
I
worry about collectively when more people in an area lower their rates because of fear or, competitive mindset or whatever. The scarcity mindset is really what I think is happening. But regardless of why, what ends up happening is we get lower and lower rates. Customers don't understand why they should pick this apple versus this apple. Because in their mind, it is apples to apples. They don't understand that it's apples to a whole fucking fruit salad with this option or whatever, a whole buffet, right? Much better value. So they don't understand that though. And I don't know if that's enough.
I think
I
generally they don't understand that. I mean, like if you're like doing just like a sweeping generalization of the population, but from my experience, the clients that I get do understand that. I think people who are their mindset is taking care of themselves and self-care and massage and body work is already on their radar within that realm of taking care of themselves, then they kind of become like connoisseurs of taking care of themselves, and good massage is important to them. They know the difference between going to somebody who's been licensed for 2 years versus somebody who has the experience that we have, and, paying accordingly for that.
And most of
I
your clientele, as you've said, are kind of in the upper bracket economically, correct?
Yeah.
You work with
Yeah.
wealthier people living in New
Yeah, and
Braunfels.
of course
Nicer
that plays
area.
into it as well, for sure. Yeah.
I loved what you were saying, Rachel, about a race to the bottom. And I feel like there's something really worthy of more on that because, I also think I agree with what you're saying too, is like the people who are searching for like self-care and well-being and they're
Well,
not
quality, right?
yeah, yeah, they're not Googling for a massage therapist. They're asking people around them for a massage therapist. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like they're not searching on Groupon or whatever for a massage. They're like trying to get in with like the cool club or whatever, like not like their friends that they're asking to where it's going to be more. But that goes back into like the education piece of it is like, someone who hears like I should get a massage, like wait, words. Is each massage therapist doing their part in educating what massage is and isn't and what the purpose of it being there? And like obviously, well, I know not every massage therapist is doing that, and that's kind of always been my platform is like we all need to be educating our clients about the potential of massage, right? And I think that when we educate people on the potential of massage, it's like that is what gets the new therapist to be the 18-year therapist, right? Is they're not just like in and out, see you later. It's actually like an experience for themselves, but also for the client. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
We would hope so. I would hope that that would be the experience of that relationship, of that interaction, that it would be rooted in education from the provider to help the client seeking help. Um, and not every client has the this leads into some trauma informed care too, because not everybody has the bandwidth to be educated all the time, right? But I would hope that that would be the arc of, okay, the know, like, trust, right? Develop that relationship, and then you're a trusted source for that education. And we can be an incredible resource for wellness and knowledge and wonderful skills building and all this stuff, but not every client's looking for that. And again, like talking about pricing and scarcity and how everyone's kind of in survival mode right now. I don't know if the wealthy elite are. I don't know. they say the middle class is disappearing. I don't know, you know, at what economic level do the real things start to happen? The real shifts were like, oh, I got to cut massage out of my wellness budget. Oh, I can only do Pilates this month, or whatever. What do those choices even look like? I would love to know. I'd be curious to know
Well,
what choices rich people have to make with their wellness care.
I'm curious if you guys have ever heard the idea that when economic times are hard, that massage booms because people get really honed in on like what does work for them.
Yeah.
I started in 2008 during the 2008 economic crisis. At that time, I didn't even know that was going on. Did you guys ever feel that way? I was like, I'm just living my life over here.
Yeah.
And now I look back, I'm like, oh, that was happening during then. Okay. But I mean, I've never really struggled to get clients. I've never struggled to like, you know,
Survive.
well, I mean, I've definitely had hard money times, but it's like from a client perspective, I've never had that like, oh, I haven't had a client booked in 2 weeks or something, It's like as soon as I
Yeah.
got out of the gate, I was like hustling,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I whenever I see these people post on Facebook, like especially when COVID happened, there was like all these people who left the industry and then everyone was like, I'm so crazy busy. And then it like fell off and people were like, how do I get clients? And I've never been in that place, you know?
Yeah.
So I just kind of feel like, I'm wondering if there's some truth to that whole thing of like massage booms when times are hard. But also, I've had clients recently been like, you know what, we got to tighten up the budget. I can only come once a month instead of twice a month.
That's the thing too, is what are the goals of the work that is being done?
Right.
Because sometimes it's a one-off experience, sometimes it's ongoing care. Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of work are you doing? But since we're kind of meant to be talking about the future of the industry too, I mean, it's a pertinent tie into that because economic change is, it's the current of the ocean, right? It's like it's always there in flux, affecting everything in kind of this collective, pretty imperceptible way until everybody starts bitching about egg prices.
Yeah.
It's like we don't really, unless we're tracking it every single day, right? Because you manage what you measure, isn't that the expression? So we don't really have this day-to-day measurement of, oh, how's the economy doing? But we can feel when it gets real fucking crunchy, and then we notice it, and then we're like, I wonder how my clients are. Like it's real reactive as opposed to pro. What am I trying to say? Um, no, I can't think of words right now. But anyway, with the future, I do wonder how things will shift going forward. I know that, all the projections, the US Bureau of Statistics and the labor statistics, they project upward growth for our industry, like really, really good upward projections over the next decade. But it's like, we don't really know. So I do wonder about that.
Yeah, I also want to be like, what's that based off of? Because even the stock market is based off of like emotions and like how are we
Yeah.
feeling about the situation. I do a lot of polling. I haven't polled my clients in a little while. I'm in the middle of switching a lot of things, so maybe that'll be part of it. But that's something I always want to have like a pulse on, right? Is like, and plus, as we've been in this for a long time, I still have clients that are with me now that whenever I started, and it's like we've aged together, right? I've gone to like retirement parties for my clients, and it's like, that's the kind of thing though, is like, what is the average of what's happening with your clientele? Like every couple of months, I take an inventory of like who's seen me in the last 3 months or the last 6 months, and I'm literally write their names down and I'll be like, okay, I've got an average of like 54 clients per month, to just know like how many clients am I seeing, but also I get a real intimate look of like, okay, Sally, Susan, like that's the people that I'm working with. And it's like they're more than numbers to me. They're humans, they're relationships that I have. So it's like I want to look at that and be like, what is their situation? Is it time for me to raise my prices because I need to or whatever? Like what are they going through? Can
Mhm.
they hold this?
Yeah.
Um,
I also
I
think
don't know. I mean, I'm the type of person that doesn't think much about the economy at all.
I don't either, really.
I
I mean,
really, I mean, I kind of am just a flower. And like you, I haven't ever really had much trouble with obtaining clients, keeping clients. So it's just something that's kind of like an abstract thing going on, but it doesn't affect me much, at this time.
mhm.
But yeah, it's obviously these are things to think about. And I, like you, have had that thought of like, should I raise my rates? How are my clients going to react to that? I think everybody, I mean, every practitioner thinks about that when they think about raising their rates. So yeah.
Do you ever see those ads for like business coaches or massage specific business coaches that are like, here's the simple formula to know how to price your session? And it's like, oh, that's my first, like, this is
Yeah. Well, and
okay.
then they'll be like,
There is a simple
if you
formula.
do, yeah.
yeah,
And they'll be
right.
like, if you raise your rates, you'll lose some clients, but better ones will come. And I'm like, that's such a shitty thing to say. Like, you have these clients, you care about these people, like you're in the business of caring about these people. And
Absolutely.
so you have to think about how your prices affect them. Like that's why when I opened my practice again, I went on a hiatus for a long time and then reopened in San Antonio. And, at that point, I'm like, okay, I'm going to establish this is my baseline rate. I'm going to make it high because that's what I want to do, but nobody knows me yet. So I can do that and go from there. But yeah, I mean, now that I am established here, and I know the clientele that I work with, I am comfortable with at some point saying, okay, maybe I need to raise my rates $10 or something because I do feel like my clientele that I currently have could handle it. But yeah, I agree with you. You have to think about those things.
Yeah.
And then
I,
also, oh, sorry, Sarah, go ahead. I'll save this.
oh, I was just going to say, I think that it's really important to not fall to those sorts of like gimmicky things because as someone who produces content that people pay for or courses or whatever, there is pressure, right, to put things in a specific like gimmick, like 5 ways to do the thing. And I just think that underneath that needs to be, you know history and experience and intention and things like that to really see like, is this the right person I want to work with, either as a massage therapist or as a coach or whatever the case may be.
Hmm.
I was going to insert a thought that's a little bit of a shift, but I'm thinking in terms of what modalities or approaches or philosophies or styles, insert whatever word. I like the word approach. What approaches we can see only growing, only becoming more integral with the massage therapy education, maybe even core education from massage school. But like, what do we see trending going forward? So, like
I
for
definitely
me, working
see.
with a perinatal population, it's all about trauma-informed care and how to imbue that into my training, both internally and then whatever else I decide to do with training. I think everything trauma-informed. That's
Yeah, well, I think
my
that is the direction that things are going. And of course, that correlates with like the latest, science and how massage actually works. So I think that's a good thing.
Like with nervous
I do
system
think that
understanding and that.
nervous system forward work, trauma-informed work, somatic work is the direction that it's going. And, fascia is a buzzword, and which is fine because
The vagus
those
nerve.
two are so interconnected, your fascial health with your nervous system health. So, yeah, that's the direction that I see it going. Definitely more trauma-informed somatic experiences.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I teach a nervous system understanding course and a trauma informed course, and um I think that and this is what I say in my trauma informed class is that having good intentions is never enough. Like you need actual understanding of the nervous system responses to be able to even consider what trauma informed is, right? Like I think a lot of people go into massage thinking, "Oh, I want to help people feel better and relaxation is good and stress is bad or whatever." And that's noble, right? And if we want to be truly trauma informed, we have to understand that our words that we say, our body language that we exhibit, that the environment around us. I used to work in this chiropractic office and he was super Christian and he would play the Christian radio station in the seating area. And like that was his vibe. And I was like, dude, you got to stop this. This is not okay. It's like, what is the person's experience from every step that they walk into your space? And that can feel daunting, but when you understand what it can do to someone's body or their experience, it doesn't become daunting anymore. It becomes like, duh. Like it becomes like this has to happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally
It's like,
agree. And as somebody who is obsessively focused on the experience that people have when they come to see me, yeah, I agree. And I do think that, talking about the future of massage education specifically, like Rachel and I have talked about how do you teach empathy before. But I think that at a foundational level, when you're talking about people who have no experience with this work, that are trying to learn, they're learning the very foundations, how do you give them a baseline understanding of how to create a healing experience for people? And I think that starts with the basic principles of creating a feeling of safety, a sense of safety. That's easier to teach than getting into all of the nuances of nervous system work and somatic work. But it's a good foundational start.
Yeah.
completely agree. Sorry, I'm going to cut in here because this is very like real talk. As I'm creating my internal trainings, I like to do a hybrid approach where I teach the theory because I think that's important and it's rooted in like Peter Levine, who started somatic experiencing. Like I love how he's a clinical psychologist. So he and all of the theory and the science behind trauma. And then that's like half of it, but the half of it that I think is the sexy stuff for students to be receiving and the stuff where they can understand it first is like, what do you do? What does it look like?
Yeah.
What do you like? Case scenarios. Like, if this happens in practice, what does a trauma informed approach look like as a way to create meaning and understanding? How to lead the space as the provider, because there's power dynamics at play and all kinds of other interpersonal things. And you want to stay rooted in that relationship and that, so what do we do there interpersonally? What do we do, I guess, inner space wise, or like just leading the environment, leading the container of space that you share with the client? And then how, like, it's the glacier. It's like all the things you think, but then what do you externalize? What do you allow to enter that shared space? And all of this, like, in real time, right? So it's like, but how do we introduce this to students as a concept, as a theory, but then also in practice? And so I like to kind of focus on like, okay, here's the theory, but here's what it could look like. But it's always this dance of like, how is this being received by the students? Are they tracking? Is it clicking for them?
Mhm.
And how do we measure that? Like as educators, how do we understand that our students understand?
Yeah. Well,
Such
I think
complex.
what's hard, especially for students, is there's such a so, creating that safety that you want to create for your clients is also so tied to asserting your authority as the, knowledgeable practitioner. And I think that students and people just starting out really struggle with that. They still kind of have this mindset of, that imposter syndrome, or that mindset of I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And that when you're in that space, you cannot make people feel safe.
Insecurity is a fear-based thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, how do you get students to that level where they're just coming out, they're starting their practices, and they know how to do, they know what they're doing. They are the authority. They are, asserting that authority.
I also think that part of creating safe spaces for people is being in a space yourself that can take feedback and um like do you create a space where a client could say at any point in time stop or
Mhm.
no not like that or I want that um and I think that being in that fear space or even imposter syndrome to your point is like you can't receive feedback when you're coming from that place.
Yes. Very, very true. So there's a wisdom in this work that I find to be like humanity needs this wisdom. Like extending it beyond our industry. This is what the world needs, is this wisdom of how do we stay grounded? How do we lead a space with all of these different dynamics and complexities in the air? Um, but the interpersonal work and the self work is so key too. So I think also about like designing curriculum at the beginning level, at the career training level. How do we imbue a curriculum with that kind of wisdom for personal development as well as professional development? Because I also feel like that's needed too. I feel like career training schools and institutions are throwing the baby out with the bathwater. They're missing a huge golden opportunity to train people for life, not just for their certification or their license.
Well, and that brings up a really interesting thing because I have students who come from states that are unlicensed and they come to my continuing education classes. And they're the ones that are coming because they know that they need continuing education, but they report to me how many people around them don't even continue any education. I mean, in the state of Missouri, like they don't really require enough or like checking the right things to make sure you've done the work, you know? And I just think that is such a downfall of the expectation of massage. When you like go into massage school, the expectation is there that you do continuing education, but then I don't know if it's like the institutions aren't like holding you to that, or if it's the core curriculum isn't really like imbuing that on the student too, like this is why you need continuing education. Or then you go back even further, and this is me thinking really outside the box, or am I, right? Is like, what if our core education was completely transformed in a way that provided more and provided a more full complex picture of what education could be like. And
Mhm.
I go back and forth on this, right? Because like you're asking a lot, like I'm asking a lot in that, right? Like how do we change the entire landscape of core curriculum? But at the same time, you know, then on the flip side to that, right, is like, well, it's not like we're doing brain surgery or like, but there's a lot to what we're doing, like I don't want to minimize,
Yeah,
but it's also like, I know that I don't know what's the average cost of going to massage school these days.
12.
Yeah.
Still,
Eh,
that's what
well,
I paid.
hang on. That's the ticket price. That's kind of the average. But do you want to talk about like how expensive is it per student per school? Because then it's probably like five, four. Like if we're talking about the expenses to pay the teachers, to pay for the systems, to pay for the books, like just to meet your ceiling, it's probably like half of what's being.
No, I'm thinking like what would an average student pay to go to massage school, and the expectation, the turnaround of like what you get from that education, is it worth $12,000? I
Okay.
mean,
Yeah,
like
understood.
it,
No, career training schools are set up, and I'm saying this from the experience I've had in San Antonio opening two schools. So I opened a new school for Oak Haven, I opened a second campus for AMTT. So that's my experience. But with both of those scenarios, uh shit, sorry, my brain just lost the thought. What was the question again? Oh, the ticketing. So, yeah, the cost and what are students getting out of it? It's a business. It's a money maker. There's not a
right,
lot of heart in it.
but from like a customer standpoint, a student
Mm,
going into massage school, I'm going to pay $12,000 and I'm going to turn around and have a career, ideally, right? And if we talk about the shelf life of a massage therapist being 6.5 years, like that's not a great ROI there. But
right.
if you have a career for 18 years, like some of us, the ROI on a $12,000 investment off the bat is pretty good.
The thing that I want to highlight is because with my time with the schools, most of my time when I'm there, when I'm on campus doing my thing, is like interacting with students. And so much of the emotional journey of why these adult learners enroll in career training, it's hope. They have hope. And I feel like if I were to open a massage school, I would want to over deliver on that hope. I would want to give them learning for life, not just learning for a license. Ooh, that sounds good. I like that. That's a bumper
Yeah.
sticker.
Well, I
But
mean,
I
that is
do.
what it is. It's learning for a license. That's how most massage schools are set up. And yeah, I
Yeah, the
mean,
competencies are like literally like exactly what the state
yeah,
requires, no more, no less. Like,
yeah. And I think they're definitely under delivering on expectations, first of all. Because you get your license and you get out into the world and you're working and you realize that this work is a lot more emotionally intensive than you anticipated. And you get burned out, you realize that it's more physically demanding than you thought it would be. Um, yeah. So I think
yeah.
it's yeah, I think it's important in the future while we're talking about the future, to over deliver on expectations and how to manage the gritty parts of this work.
And honestly, it's kind of akin to trauma-informed care. It's shifting, it's reframing it. But really, if we're thinking about designing a career training experience for a student, I would want to imbue that entire journey with a trauma-informed approach. Like let them know what to anticipate and expect, meet them, like match that expectation along the way, and then continue to nurture them and support them even when they're not paying you directly or even when they're already licensed and out in the world. Like just continue that nurturing. But I don't know, I'm thinking about it from a trauma informed approach. So I guess the point is that trauma informed is not just for inside the treatment room with clients. It's really just zooming out, bird's eye view, like this is what our industry needs from the first step of this journey professionally. But then, yes, inside the treatment room, when we're doing the work, that's where we really focus on it. And that's where we think about it because we're focusing on our clients and the work. But we need to return some of that back to ourselves, I think, too, right? And the new generations of massage therapists that are going to come up um, you know, and we're going to hand the baton off to that generation. Like, let's give them this gift of our wisdom. And I don't know, I'm
This
preaching now, but
this comes like almost full circle, right? Because we were just talking about like a race to the bottom, right? So say you create a beautiful school that's trauma informed and creating like spaces of care and spaces of like what do I want to say, like nurtured learning and like through a holistic lens, right? But you're gonna have to charge a lot more than $12,000 for that.
well, maybe
Yeah.
not. That's
Well,
well,
I mean, okay, I'm gonna say that the value is more than $12,000 whenever I think about other schools being $12,000 average. Okay.
yeah.
And not giving you all of that. Okay.
Yeah.
So then it goes into if I'm a student trying to find a school, am I going to choose that school that's like $25,000 with financial aid or $12,000 with no financial aid, but I get out in 6 months and I check check all the license. What did we say? Learning to get a license or whatever. I mean, we have some schools like that in my area, and it's just it's interesting. And I mean, you really have to stay true to your mission, right? Of like, this is why we're creating this school that has more than your average experience because we want to be successful at it.
Ding, ding, ding. I just saw Rachel get a light bulb or something.
I did. I had a thought.
Uh,
Just more than massage was literally the
a
hashtag.
tagline.
Yeah, just so much more than massage.
Well, I worked at the one of the schools here, and Rachel, you'll know the one I'm talking about.
I
And
do.
at the end of my time there, they changed their tagline to training massage therapists for life. But the person who owned the school hadn't done a massage in 10 years, and that was like 18 years ago, right? And it was really a pipeline for people learning a bunch of woo stuff
Yeah.
Mm.
under the umbrella of massage, which I'm not knocking woo stuff. I like woo stuff sometimes, okay? But like, let's not dress that up and call it massage, okay?
Well, and didn't that guy think that sunlight was like all you need? Like you're basically a human plant and you just need you gave me the testify hand.
Yes, he did.
That guy was a nutcracker. All right.
Yeah, still is. But but my point is like, there was something there that he kind of understood that we're talking about here, right? Like we're
Yeah.
learning life, not just massage. But I think that again, having your mission really clear and not being a pipeline to his weird stuff is like that's where really rooting into like what are we doing here is
Yeah.
is like a better approach, I guess.
Like being a trusted leader in a space
Yes.
where there needs to be safety, as Savannah pointed out, like that is the foundation. That's step one. That's like everything starts with safety, as we
Right.
all know. But like as a school is your first leader on your career journey.
Yeah.
You're the vulnerable party. They're the one with the knowledge and the leadership. And there's a lack of leadership, I think. And so I
And
hope the future of our industry includes better leadership.
this is what I talk about a lot in my continuing education classes and like the marketing that I use for my continuing education, because I believe that learning spaces should also be trauma informed because for me, I teach barefoot massage and some other things too, but that's the main thing I teach. I'm asking someone to set down everything they've ever learned to do with their hands and be like, okay, and now we're going to do that with our feet, and it's going to fuck your head up. And if I'm not a safe person for you to break down and be like, this is really hard and I don't know if I can do this, I have to be that safe person to be like, I hear you. Yeah, I know this is hard. And take the rest you need and get back up there. You got this, or
It's so
whatever,
true.
whatever the situation is. But my point is that I really believe that learning spaces need to be as safe as our treatment spaces. And that's not happening in most
Yeah.
places that I've seen or been a part of or whatever. Um, and that goes back to good intentions are not enough. You can be like, I have a great class, that's cool, but like, what are you doing to create safety within your class? Safety for your student to be like, I can't do this, or I don't get it, or I don't know that muscle name anymore, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's like we can't have spaces that make people feel belittled or not enough or overwhelmed even. Like what I teach is overwhelming. And I always try to make that very clear in the beginning, like, you are gonna feel overwhelmed, I promise, and we're gonna make it through. We're gonna be okay. We're gonna get through this. Um,
Yeah.
so I am totally in support of like trauma informed is the future and it should be the present and we should be holding our core curriculum institutions to that same expectation. And I don't know how to do that. I don't know where to start with that, but maybe it's a
Yeah. Well, and maybe it comes back to scarcity. I mean, well, could talk about that for a while. I guess my bigger curiosity, because I know we also have a time container we have to wrap up kind of soon, right, guys? It's 11:11. So I guess I'm curious too, over the last decade, basically since 2015 or so, we've been seeing a lot of stuff on fascia kind of emerging as well as somatic and, nervous system focused stuff coming out. And the two being very connected, obviously, nociceptive pain communicated via the fascia, all kinds of things communicated via the fascia. You know, I'm curious too to see where the future of research and education takes that. I know this month in New Orleans is the Global Symposium on Fascial Research, and I wish I could be there. I'm curious to see, what people post after whoever was able to attend. Do either of you follow Sue Hitzman, by the way, Melt Method? You do,
Mm,
Sarah?
I mean, I've heard of it. I've heard of her and I've heard of the melt method, but I don't follow her.
Yeah. She's got some cool stuff. Anyway, I wonder about that. Is there anything y'all are curious about or wonder about as far as like the next 10 years?
Well, I mean, my assumption is that, with all this research and new findings and things about how massage works is coming into the realm of existence, you would think that education would follow suit pretty quickly. Um, but is it? My husband is in massage school right now, currently. And he's not relaying to me that he's learning any of these kind of more nuanced concepts.
yeah.
Um, so
Um,
yeah,
I've
which is
seen I've seen
disappointing.
that curriculum, girl. I
Yeah,
know what
yeah,
he's
yeah, yeah,
learning right
yeah.
now.
So yeah, he's coming home and telling me all these things and I'm like, okay, but and just kind of like planting little alternative seeds in his brain.
I love
um,
that. How can
Rachel,
you not? Yeah, you know
Yeah,
too
of course.
much. Yeah.
Rachel, to answer your question from my perspective,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things I'm really interested about. And as someone who has POTS and probably long COVID and Ehlers-Danlos and hypermobility, there's a lot coming out in that world of EDS and fascia research and frequency healing, which is a totally different realm of things. And I've only just begun like the very bottom of trying to understand it, but it's a lot of like what we were talking about as far as what is happening in the outside world, how is it communicating to the fascia, and how is the fascia communicating that to the rest of our being. And I think I'll be really curious to see what science and research comes of that in the next 10 years, both as like a practitioner, but also as someone experiencing it and believing that more people are experiencing all of these things that I am, more so than we realize.
Yeah. Autonomic dysfunction
Yes, exactly.
abounds. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's causing this? I have a lot of people in my life who have autonomic dysfunction, and it's like, what's happening with that?
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, thank you.
Vibration frequency therapy. That sounds, yeah, I'm curious about that too, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to have another conversation about that. So Thank you guys so much for being here today. And if anybody wants more information on any of us, we will connect with the socials and the websites and all that stuff. So we just ask that you follow us, like the whole thing, and do the things, do the things. Awesome.
Things.
Thanks for being here, guys.
Thank
Thanks,
you for
Sarah.
having me.